Okay, so let's kick it off with d4 this time. Get ourselves, I thought it was going to be an Nimzo Indian, but I guess we're going to go with a Carlsbad. Nothing like an exchange. And let's go for one of the more aggressive approaches. My opponent's just kind of setting up his pieces, so we shall do the same. Okay. So it looks like you want to go kingside. Alright. I'm not too concerned with the idea of you trying to trade. So I stayed flexible in case to castle queenside, but that's clearly not going to be an option anymore. So we'll just play against the isolated pawn, and it's like a good Queen's Gambit decline Tarrasch for white. So really not much to see here. White just has a stable edge. Hitting multiple weaknesses. I expect something like knight c to e4 just because it feels nice to the opponent. Then when we go queen b3, simply avoiding the attack, we are hitting so many targets. And that's got to result in something favorable. If g5, knight takes d6, then bishop g3. And we're just going to play against the isolated pawn forever and torture him. And then it is a 3-minute game. See what happens if I put on a bit more pressure. Because if he's thinking this long, yeah, g5 is definitely good now. But I was focused more on the time rather than quality of play. No. No. And how about a nice endgame? Probably the best opportunity to trade queens for black here is just to double the pawns. But the extra pawn is definitely going to be a factor. But the main factor is going to be my opponent's time trouble. Because I'm going to continue to apply slow and steady pressure. And there's not much he can do about it. Hit multiple squares, hit the knight. G5. And that does it. Okay, so let's see what went wrong for my opponent. The answer is probably a lot. When you play simple chess, you've got to be accurate. And bishop d6 is not a bad move. It's a sideline, but by and large, the main line is bishop e7 to simply break the pin, and then picking up popularity, for instance, after, say, queen c2 is the move knight h5, which is what I advocate for. And you can end up getting this type of position, g6, and black's dream is to go knight g7, get this knight out of the way, bishop f5, and trade off your bad bishop for the good one, and then have this like equal ending. But of course, white's trying to prevent that, and then we end up getting this type of game, which you can tell the engine eval is not quite sure what's going on, maybe just a smidge for white at best, but I definitely advocate for this line for black against the Carlsbad structure. Bishop d6 is fine, but bishop e6 in conjunction with it, it just doesn't feel right to put the bishop there. And in previous games, castle has been played, and I mean, Kramnik's played this a few times according to the database, and I think that we'll go a few more moves in. Castles definitely seems like the right idea, and then you have this knight g5. And it seems like white's got a good game here. So I don't know so much about this bishop d6 line, but I definitely felt that bishop e6 was inaccurate because it gives me a free hand in the position. And this is signaling that he's going for this c5 plan, and I didn't mind going for this, but I apparently missed an opportunity. Just bishop takes here, and knight takes d5 is just good. Queen g6, and now his king is out in the open. We have the completely winning ending. So yeah, I definitely could have improved there, and that's the problem with the c5 move. This structure is not designed for black to attack. He's supposed to be like sitting tight. But again, bishop takes d7, and then I got the same kind of stuff against the d pawn. And then after this, I imagine, yeah, g5 was what I was considering there. And then on bishop g3, rook f3, and it looks like I'm getting sufficient play anyway here. It's equal, but black's king's open for the long term. I would definitely still prefer white. But when he played knight takes c3, this now is just going for the one move cheapo. Hope chess. I'm not an advocate. And now rook d4 is more accurate. And I'm always curious when I reach these positions, because I'm like, okay, my opponent has 48 seconds. I have a minute 55. I know that from a technique standpoint, all I need to do is trade down and win. But I am curious, like, when I start differing and I'm like, this is relaxed chess at this point. Like, I know that I'm pretty much going to win this game as long as I don't blunder. But rook d4 is more accurate to try to bother this knight. And now he really doesn't have a good idea. So this is much better than what I played in the game. Knight f4 is I'm just trying to trade. And I have a semblance of the same idea with lifting the rook. And my pieces are fully coordinated. Just had to watch out for the f2 trick. And he misses the final straw with hanging that knight. So hopefully we showed you some ideas for black and what black could have done better in that Carlsbad structure or the exchange Queen's Gambit.